Hi, welcome back. I know it's been a long time since I've done a video. I've had a lot of comments that I should do a video on this topic. So this topic is about the prop funding firms that you'll see advertised heavily. They have become extremely popular amongst retail traders. So in this video, I'm going to give my views. I think this is a very important sector to understand what's really happening here. And again, my goal is just to try and guide and help you if you want to become a trader. So these prop funding firms have become just huge. It's probably the biggest growth area of the trading industry over the last sort of 3 or 4 years. I'm going to talk about the history of prop and funding firms and then sort of walk through to what's happening now. So if we go back to when the floors first closed down, so the live floor in London closed in 1999, and you had therefore a lot of people wanting to trade and needing an environment. And previously on the floor, that was an environment for new traders to be trained by more experienced traders and then be funded and go into pits. That was a long-standing kind of situation. Obviously, when the floor finished, some rooms opened up, and some actually they were essentially broking firms. Some of them, to begin with, realized that they could sort of start to train up traders and provide some capital. And initially, the prop firms also employed experienced traders to teach these traders. So the original model for prop funding firms back in sort of the early 2000s was to bring in traders, run education programs, teach them, back them with money, and you want them to make money. That was obviously, a typical trading model, a typical model for a trading desk. So that was the initial model, and experienced traders trading junior traders, etc. That was the kind of pathway. Now, after only a few years of that, volume started to explode. These prop rooms became quite big. The firms that were running them realized that the game had changed and they no longer needed to run profitable trading desks. And I explained why. What they realized was they started doing deals with exchanges in terms of getting rebates for volumes. And they realized that volume was the biggest thing here for them. As long as they traded big volume, they could have a kind of a fee arbitrage. And what I mean by that is they were paying, X cents to the exchange. They were charging the traders X cents plus, a bit more than that. And that enough was enough profit for them. So they no longer needed to have profitable traders. If the trading floor that they had could be break even, they would still be making money. This changed the way that they operated. They did away with the education side of the business. And essentially, they no longer cared if the traders made money as long as they didn't lose. So losing traders would be cut. They kept very tight stop losses. But now the game for the prop room was just essentially trade very large volume. And as long as the trading floor was, as a whole, was sort of flat P&L, that was good enough for them because they were making enough from this sort of fee arbitrage between them, the exchange, and the traders that they had. Now, at this point, the prop model has changed. It has changed from one that was helpful to young traders to one that wasn't helpful for young traders. And why is that? Because the first model, you were getting instruction, you were getting taught by good traders, and the prop firm needed and wanted you to make money. So all along the way, they're guiding you, they're helping you with these experienced traders to become better. Now that they didn't need that anymore, they didn't need you to make money anymore. They did away with the education. And if you started to struggle, they would just cut you. That's it. You're gone. And so therefore, you're not getting the same help. So this model had already changed. Now let's fast forward to now. The prop kind of model has been a little bit quiet for 10 years or so, and then suddenly it's sprung up again. Now, what's the most popular model right now? It's a model where you pay for an evaluation period, and essentially this is all done in what's called a live sim mode. So live markets, but just simulated. And even if you pass the evaluation model, for most of these funding firms, you will then essentially be funded with a live sim account. So you're not trading with their money, you're not trading with real money. They have no skin in the game. This is the most popular model right now, And there are a number of problems with this model. Now, firstly here, I want to make clear, I understand that there are many traders around the world, many people who want to make it as a trader, and they think this is their shot. And I know that many people are going to be unhappy by some of the things I'm saying in this video, a bit like when I came out and said that technical analysis wasn't going to help you. You know, people sometimes struggle with hearing that sort of information and they get angry about it. I just want to say my goal is really to try and help people and to try and point out what's really happening here. So these sim models, I understand that people think it's a cheap shot at the big time. I'm paying $20, $30 a month, and if I get funded, I get a $50,000 account. I want to explain what's really happening here and why it's very unlikely you're going to have a sustainable career by following this current model. So firstly, the live sim account. Now, in terms of simulated platforms, the reality is some are better than others. And one of the most popular platforms that's being used in this live sim environment is one that, in my experience and the experience of the students that I teach, is not very realistic in terms of particularly the way you get filled. Why is that important? It's important because what you're learning in the sim model may well be not transferable into real markets. So you're not really learning to trade on some of these platforms. You're not learning to trade something that's going to help you in the long run trade real markets. Also, we have to have a look at the actual model here. The model is this. The firm itself is not actually providing any real funds. You're only going to trade in a simulated environment. Now, what happens if you're successful? You pass evaluation, you go into the simulated environment with their money, and you start making money. Who pays you? Well, because you're not actually making real money in a real market, so there's not real profits here. Well, the company itself, therefore, can't pay you. You are funded by the losers. And this is really important. What it means is that these funding firms need lots of losers. They need way more losers than winners. Now, of course, generally in trading, there are more losers than winners anyway. So they know that that's going to happen anyway. But in this model, even more so. They need a huge amount of losers to pay just the winners. The other thing we know is if you have a month or two, even just 1 month where you go backwards, you immediately get taken out. And then some of them now say, well, pay us a bit more, you can go back in. But essentially, again, if you struggle for a month, they're not helping you to get better. There is no help, guidance, or advice anywhere along the way for you. One bad month, that's it, you're out. In a real proper prop room environment, if you've shown that you're good for a few months and you're profitable, if you have one bad month, you're not going to get kicked out in a real prop environment. This is not a real prop environment we're talking about with these live sim accounts. One bad month, they kick you out. But if you pay us more, maybe you can get back in. Some of them will offer. And just to show how this environment is really not realistic, I want to sort of put a hypothetical out there. Let's say, I'm going to start up a new prop or funding company. Now, one of them is a proper prop model where I'm going to supply the capital. I need traders to trade it, and they're going to trade real markets, live markets with my money. Now, let's say for argument's sake that the best 500 futures traders in the world come to me as the first 500 people to apply. For this model, that's the best thing that could happen to me, right? I have the best 500 futures traders. I'm providing backing to them. They're trading live markets, so their P&L is real, and we're all going to do very well. I'm going to take a percentage of their winnings. We're all going to do well. Now, let's go to this live sim environment. Let's say the best 500 futures traders in the world apply to them. That's the worst thing that can happen to them. The worst thing that can happen is that all of the traders they get are good, profitable traders, because then the firm is on the hook for the money. They don't have that because it's not real money these traders are trading with. So therefore, the firm will close down. That should show the absurdity of that model. That a model where if you had all of the best traders in the world under your umbrella, that would kill your business. That cannot be a real trading business. That isn't a real trading business. So that should be sending some real warning signs to you out there. Things that I hear back from industry insiders are that, of course, the failure rate is extremely high. Now, these businesses, they set rules that basically mean that there will be a high failure rate. And as soon as they get too many people winning, they can change the rules again. Again, that's a massive red flag to you. So they do have a high failure rate. How many traders actually make it through to be, sustainable over 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 months? One industry insider said to me, almost no one. So the failure rate in futures markets is high anyway. We know that. But the failure rate of these firms is even higher. It has to be. They need it to be that way. And again, my biggest message here is to make sure that your goals align with the firms. If you're using their money, trading in a real environment, they want you to do well. In this live sim environment, they need most of their people to do badly. They need most traders to lose. They need to collect their monthly premiums from those losing traders. Other things that I think are damaging to you if you're using this as a way to learn how to trade is that I don't think it has the intensity or focus of a real trading environment. And what do I mean by that? Well, essentially that model whereby, if I fail evaluation this month, I'll just try again next month, or I'll run 10 accounts simultaneously, etc., etc. That's not really providing you with the real focus that you need. In a real trading environment, like when I started to trade, or if you go to a real prop room, you have to be in an environment where if you do fail, you're struggling, that could be the end of it for you. I always felt that, that was a possibility. But if you go in with the view as, well, I'll trade here, and if I lose, it doesn't matter, I'll get funded again. That's not a real trading environment. That you'll just end up punting. And again, talking to insiders, that's what I hear, is that people are just punting. If you fail, it doesn't matter. Now, as I said, that's different from, by the way, for those that are just saying, well, that's contradicting what I said earlier about the fact that, in a real prop environment, if you have a bad month, they'll keep you on. That's after you've shown that you're a good trader. What I'm talking about is the evaluation process. Those first few months, it's a bit like a trial for a sports star. If you go to a trial and you're wanting to play football, that trial is very important. You have to work on intensity and focus and make sure you're good in that trial. You may never get the opportunity to play at the professional level, or, whatever level it is you want. It's the same in trading. In my first few months, I had to prove I was good. Sure, once I've proved that, then I will get the support if I do have a month or two that's bad. So what I'm talking about here is, in that evaluation process, people are not focused enough because it doesn't mean anything to them. If they fail evaluation, it doesn't mean anything. I'll pay $30. I'll do it again next month. I don't think you'll have the right intensity or focus to trade properly. In trading, we have to understand that if we blow up our account, if we lose our account one month, that might be the end of it. So that will change the way we are focused. It will change the intensity that we trade at. It'll also change the way we trade. We're not going to just punt so much. We're going to look at our risk a bit more. But in an environment where you can just go and sign up again next month, you're not going to have that same sharpness. You're not going to have the same risk management that you might have normally. And as I said, talking to industry insiders, that's exactly what they tell me. They tell me people are just punting, looking for that, hopefully that home run. So I think in general here, you're not going to learn to trade in the right way. You're going to effectively, people think this is a cheap way of getting a big shot, but ultimately I think people are spending hundreds, even thousands of dollars on this. And at the end of it, you are just not going to become a better trader. I don't see how this model will create really good traders. It will create occasionally some people that, had a lucky month or hit a home run in their evaluation, but that's not going to last either. And again, you're not getting guidance. So what should you look for? Well, not every firm is trading that way. So look for firms where they have skin in the game. Look for companies that, are going to offer you help and guidance as you learn, and particularly after you pass evaluation. Look for firms that are, allowing you to trade in a live market. That's so important, because those firms have skin in the game and they want you to do better if they take a percentage. Firms in the live sim environment, your goals are just simply not aligned with them. So again, I don't want to destroy everybody's hopes, and this is not the goal of this, but the reality is, for probably, 98, 99% of people taking these live sim environments, you're just not going to pass them. You're not going to have a sustainable career, and it's better you find that out earlier. As I've always said, my goal is not to persuade people to become traders. That's your decision. What I try to do is, if you have made that decision yourself to become a trader, is just to try and help you and guide you through what's, a very difficult and dangerous industry. I think, again, what's happening here is not new. This is the industry is selling something, and retail traders are just buying what they're selling. This is the same in retail with technical analysis. It's very common. But what you have to understand is that often what the industry is selling you is not good for you, is not what you want. So sit down, work out what your goals are, what you want to do, and make sure that any firm that you work with is aligned with what you want and is going to help you get to where you want to be.